Sunday, Dalet Iyar Tafshin Ayin Gimel. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamorim Tafshin Aleph Tafshin Yud Beis. In the Maimer of Shabbos Mevorchim Tammuz Tafshin Yud Aleph, Parshas Shlach. We are on page Kuf Aleph in the second paragraph of chapter 2, second paragraph of Eis Beis. In brief, the Rebbe asked what was the point of Moshe Rabbeinu agreeing to send Meraglim spies to Eretz Yisrael if Hashem is giving the land to the Eden, and particularly since it would have been in the most miraculous way, because Hashem himself would have been joining or leading the Eden together with Moshe, as opposed to what happened in the times of Yeshua, where an angel joined or led the Eden together with Yeshua, and then it was in a miraculous way. So how much more so it would have been miraculous if Moshe had taken the Eden into Eretz Yisrael, and at that time, of course, it was intended, or it was taken as given, that Moshe Rabbeinu would lead the Eden into Eretz Yisrael, because it was before the episode of the rock and hitting the rock and so on and so forth. So the Rebbe begins to explain what is the general idea of coming into Eretz Yisrael. What happened? What was the innovation? What took place when Eden entered into Eretz Yisrael, as opposed to, or contrasting to, what Eden did when they were in the desert? And the Rebbe says the innovation was mitzvahs maisiyas, practical mitzvahs. And we began, actually we're on the top of page Kuf Beis, on the top of page Kuf Beis. And the Rebbe began to explain that in order to understand the greatness of practical mitzvahs, serving Hashem in a practical way, by fulfilling mitzvahs in action, active mitzvahs, we first need to understand, the Rebbe says, the idea of Sher Habar and the Vyoson, right? The great ox and the Vyoson, the great fish, that is associated with the coming of Mashiach. Yeah? And the Rebbe brings from the Likkutei Torah that these are two types of neshamas of tzaddikim, two types of tzaddikim. There are tzaddikim that are called the Vyoson, and there are tzaddikim that are called Sher Habar. What are tzaddikim b'chinas the Vyoson? Tzaddikim, what is a Vyoson? Vyoson is a sea animal, an animal that lives in the sea, right? The creatures that live in the sea need to be connected to their source of life at all times. They're not separate from their source of life. The sea, Beruchnius, in the spiritual sense, is referred to as Alma de Iskasia, the concealed worlds. The concealed world. You're talking about neshamas that come from Alma de Iskasia, from the concealed world. Which means that even when they are down here in this physical world, in Alma de Isgalia, in the revealed world, they still behave, they serve Hashem in an Alma de Iskasia way, in a concealed world mode. What does that mean? Their Avodas Hashem is more related to spirituality. There is a type of Avodas Hashem, serving Hashem, leyached yichudim, to unite unions. What does that mean? That's a process of engaging a certain spiritual endeavor, which causes the unity of various spiritual forces, which in turn bring forth a certain result. Right? That's where we're up to. And he brings an example. The first example that Rebbe brings is from Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Actually, let's start from Kuf Aleph at the bottom. So these neshamas that are from, if you don't mind, just pull the chair. So the
qualification that you're talking about refers to what?
It refers to for example, the union between, let's say, Chesed of Atzilus and Gvura of Atzilus.
I thought you were relating it to the creatures in the sea.
Correct. So the creatures of the sea is a metaphor for neshamas of Alma de Iskasia, souls from the concealed world. In the sea, everything is concealed. The water covers everything, but it's full of life. Similarly, Alma de Iskasia, the concealed world, is a world where things on the surface are hidden, but it's full of life. It means to say that it's hidden from us, meaning to say it's a different frame of reality. In our world, everything is revealed, right? Alma de Iskasia is a world where things are concealed.
Everything is concealed from us, isn't it?
Well, look at
the physical world that we're in contact with. Why do you specifically talk about hidden in the sea? What's different about the sea?
If you look at the dry land, life on dry land is revealed. You see it in front of your eyes.
In the spiritual sense.
In the spiritual sense, that's Alma Galia. That's the revealed world, where things are revealed. Alma Gasia refers, the sea refers to life in a concealed form. Everything is there. It says, Kol Mash Yesh Bayam, whatever there is on dry land, you find in the sea as well. But when you look at it on the surface, it's concealed. You've got to dig deeper you've got to go below the surface or into the sea in order to see what life is about in that realm. Similarly, when we talk in the spiritual sense, Alma Gasia means a world which is normally concealed, which means it's a higher realm. It's beyond the normal frame of reference of what one is accustomed to. And the neshamas that are from that world, which means to say that it's more spiritual relative to physical, is concealed for a physical being, right? So Alma Gasia is the concealed world, and you're talking about neshamas that are from a higher realm, okay? And therefore, when they serve Hashem in an unusual way, in a spiritual way. What's their avodas Hashem? Leyached yichudim. They engage in certain activities where they cause unions of different spiritual forces, godly forces. Yichud of Hashem, Yudke, Vavke, and Hashem Elokim, for example. I'm not quite familiar with this type of avodas Hashem because it's beyond our capacity. But there were certain tzaddikim, as the Rebbe is going to explain.
Stop being modest.
The Rebbe is going to explain that we'll soon see how the Rebbe brings examples of tzaddikim that served Hashem in this mode, in the mode of B'yachad Yichudim, even down here. In other words, even when they come into this world, they still retain that connection from the realm in which they come, as it were. So even down here, they are still creatures of that realm, and therefore serve Hashem in that mode. Let's see how the Rebbe articulates it.
If the fish were to leave the sea and be able to exist, yet at the same time,
Precisely.
their source is still totally connected to it,
Let's see how the Rebbe articulates it.
so to speak.
The Rebbe brings a few examples. The bottom of page Kuf Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom at the full stop. The Isa B'Lekut Torah, the Alter Rebbe brings in the Lekut Torah, Shom, over there, right? Because the Rebbe over here is this whole idea of discussing the two types of tzaddikim, the tzaddikim that are at the level of Livyoson, and the tzaddikim of Sherabar is from the Lekut Torah. Lekut Torah in Parsha Shmini. And in that Parsha, the Alter Rebbe brings examples of these tzaddikim. The Alter Rebbe continues in the Lekut Torah over there. He brings an example for this, Meirashbi, from Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. When he was in the cave 13 years. Now, in the cave 13 years, when he was in the cave for 13 years, certainly there were a number of practical, active mitzvahs that he couldn't fulfill. Right? And although, al-pidin, if one is in a state where he cannot fulfill a mitzvah because of circumstances that are not up to him, right? You are exempt from fulfilling these mitzvahs, right? Why? He was compelled by, as a result of being in danger of life. As the Gemara says. And somebody that's compelled in circumstances of this nature, the Torah, Hashem, exempts him from fulfilling the mitzvahs. So Rashbi was exempt. Nevertheless, one cannot say one cannot say that he was lacking that which is accomplished through the fulfillment of active mitzvahs, even though he was exempt, but he must have had the benefit that comes as a result of the fulfillment of these mitzvahs. So how did that happen? Therefore, we're compelled to say that he drew down these emanations, these spiritual, godly emanations, through spiritual service of Hashem. How? Through these celestial unions that he engaged in. Because he was such a powerful neshama, a neshama of Alma Gasia, certainly in the cave, he was at that level, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, right? It says, for example, concerning Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, that as far as his level was concerned, the Churban Abayis never took place. The destruction of the Beis Hamikdash didn't take place. What does that mean? The destruction, Beis Hamikdash, the revelation of godliness that took place in the Beis Hamikdash, is a spiritual level. When the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, what does that mean? That level doesn't manifest itself in this physical world. But that level, wherever it is, in the celestial realms, still exists. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was at such a level where, so far as he was concerned, he was able to engage that level of spirituality which was revealed in the Beis HaMikdash, therefore there was no churban for him. Similarly, when you talk about the Amshachas, drawing down, manifesting the spiritual effects of mitzvahs that he would otherwise fulfill, he had a way of accessing them and having the benefit of them through Yichudim Elyonim, celestial unions of spiritual forces. What is a mitzvah? What happens when we do a mitzvah? Every mitzvah has a kavanah ruchnis, right? A kabbalistic kavanah. What does that mean? It's linked into certain spiritual, godly forces. Tefillin is moichin, for example, right? When we talk about the lulav and all the na'anuyim, these are physical actions that are related to spiritual energies that we draw down into the world. A tzaddik that is at a very high level has the ability to link into that under certain circumstances through spiritual service of Hashem. And that's what Rashbi did when he was in the cave. The Alter Rebbe continues in the Lekut Torah, V'chein ha'arizal, the Arizal was also at this level where he was able to draw down these spiritual forces, godly forces, through engaging in yichudim, spiritual unions. And the Tzemach Tzedek in his notes in the Lekut Torah over there adds, V'chein ha'Baal Shem Tov Zichrenu Levracha. And so too the Baal Shem Tov. A lot of the miracles that the Baal Shem Tov performed had to do with engaging in these celestial unions and manifesting them into the physical world. That's the idea of neshamas that are b'chinas leviosam, the leviathan neshamas. Those are neshamas that come from the alma de iskasya, the concealed world, and the emphasis of their avodas Hashem is what? Spiritual. Le'achad yichudim. Then we come to another type of tzaddik. V'in sher habar. What is the idea of the great ox? Hainu tzaddikim she'avodasam hi begashmius. These are tzaddikim who serve Hashem through physical endeavor. B'kiyum mitzvahs ma'aseh is through fulfillment of actual practical mitzvahs. We know, for example, there were certain tzaddikim that excelled in tzedakah, in pidyon shvuyim, in achnas skala, right? These are tzaddikim that what? Their emphasis of their kiyum mitzvahs is on practical mitzvahs. The Alter Rebbe continues to explain in Lekut Torah over there that although that the tzaddikim that are at the level of the great ox, meaning to say the tzaddikim whose avodas Hashem, service of Hashem, is emphasized through practical mitzvahs, through active mitzvahs, is although they also need the great elevation that takes place that is accomplished through tzaddikim that are at the level of the Leviathan, Leviosan, which means the tzaddikim that serve Hashem spiritually. So even though they also, the Sherabar tzaddikim, need the benefits of the Avodas Hashem, of the Leviosan tzaddikim, Mikol Mokim, nevertheless, Yesh Ma'ali Yisera, Gam Bavei Bekim Mitzvahs Ma'asis Begashmis Dafke, nevertheless, there is a special quality that exists in the service of Hashem through fulfilling mitzvahs practically, B'chinas Sherabar. There is a special quality that the tzaddikim that are the Sherabar tzaddikim, the great ox type of tzaddikim, they possess a quality over and above whom the tzaddikim that serve Hashem spiritually. Similar to that which it says in the pasuk in Mishlei, v'rav tuvois b'keich sheir, and a great, an abundant result it takes place, is accomplished through the power of an ox. Sheir, as we're talking about over here, he defines this pasuk as a reference to the tzaddikim that are at the level of Sheir Habar, the great ox. They have a special power and a greater power, in a certain sense, over others. There is a special greater quality that neshamas that are referred to by the name, the land animals, the Sheir Habar tzaddikim, over and above tzaddikim that are sea animals, sea tzaddikim, sea neshamas. The neshamas from Alma Diskasya, from the hidden world. Why? Because they have a much greater power. And the Rebbe is going to articulate that. Concerning the celestial animals of the upper, of God, of the godly chariot, it says, you have over there Pnei Nesher, Pnei Sheir, Pnei Arya, and right, Pnei Adam. I think it is. There's four animals that under the Merkava, and it says Va'achayos noisos es akisei, and the animals are carrying the chariot, are carrying the throne. What does that mean? They're so powerful, these animals, that they are able to lift even the godly Merkava, the Merkava Elyena. Of course, we're talking in the spiritual sense, right? But what does it mean? In order for them to be able to lift the Merkava spiritually, it means that they're raising up the Merkava, the Kisei HaKavod, to a higher level. That means they have a tremendous power. That I was going to articulate in a minute how that happens. And through the fact that they lift the Merkava, they in turn are also lifted to a higher level. Let's go through this thought and we'll come back to it. It says in the Pasuk, in Tvorim, Parshas Ekev, concerning the man that God gave you to eat, the man from heaven, bread from heaven, in order to let you know that man lives not by bread alone. Man lives on anything that exits, that comes out of God's mouth. Meaning to say, it's not the bread that sustains you, but it's rather God's command or God's will, or the godly utterance. In other words, Hashem sustains you, right? So Kabbalah and Chassidus explains, it's from the Arizal, that what are we talking about? That it's not the bread that sustains you, but it's rather the Meitzah Piavaya. It is the godly spark, the godly energy that is within the bread that sustains you. So it's not the physical bread, whatever it is, the protein, the vitamins, the carbohydrates, whatever it might be that the food actually contains, but it's rather the godly energy, life force, that is within that food that the person consumes that actually gives the person life. What does that mean? The question is asked, it would seem that this is not understandable. Why does the person need the godly energy that is within the bread? The human being himself, the person himself, also contains a godly energy. So what godly energy does the food possess that the person doesn't possess on his own? Why does he need the food? He's not deficient in godly energy. How does the person live? Through the neshama. What's the neshama? It's a godly force. What does the bread possess? What does food possess that the human being doesn't have unless he consumes the bread? So it is explained, the godly utterance, the godly energy that is within the food, within the bread, it's rooted at a higher level than the godly energy that the human being possesses. What's the pshat? The because food is at a lower level than the human being, right? Medaber is the highest level. Anything from the vegetable world or from the animal world is a lower level. But the rule is, whatever is lower, something that's lower down here means that it's rooted higher. Because the higher you are, the lower you come down.
So an animal's got a high source of...
Yes. Absolutely. Therefore, it is specifically the godly energy that is within the bread, within the food, that effectuates the connection of the soul with the body. Why? Because it's higher than the soul of the body. The Rebbe articulates this more in other places. Chassidus explains this, the idea of chayas noisis esakisei, v'chayas minusois. Noisis v'gam minusois in the piyut after Musaf in the davening of Rosh Hashanah in Nusach Ashkenaz, it says noisis v'gam minusois. That's the phrase, you'll find that over there. They lift and in turn they are lifted. Chassidus explains this meaning as follows: that when the chayas hamerkava, the celestial animals, carry the Merkava Elyon, the godly throne, the chariot, right? So the word is like this. First of all, the Merkava, it's like consuming the food. What happens when a person eats the food? It's not just just for the person physically to consume the food. A Yid first has to make a bracha on the food. And when he makes a bracha on the food, he lifts the food up to a higher level. And when he lifts the food up to a higher level, he reveals in the food its source. And once he reveals the source of the food in it, the Meitzah Piavaya, where it comes from, and then he consumes it, he links in to that godly spark that's within the food, which is now what? Lifted to a higher level, higher than the person himself, higher than the godly energy that's within the person himself, and that gives him the sustenance, and that causes the chibur neshama beguf. Similarly, when you talk about the highest noises umnasais, right? They lift and they are lifted. The merkava, through the contact between the kisei covered with the animals, the presence of Hashem lifts up the highest to a higher level. And in turn, through that, they have now the power to lift the kisei covered to a higher level, because what is revealed within them is how they really stem from a level which is beyond the kisei covered. So what's the vort over here? We see, so what does that got to do with the neshamas? The neshamas of Sheir Abar and the neshamas of Livyason. The Rebbe said, although the neshamas of Livyason, the neshamas that are at the level of Livyason, from Alma Diskasya, serve Hashem in a higher way, in a spiritual way, nevertheless, there is a quality, a special quality that is possessed by whom? By the neshamas of Sheir Abar, the great ox type of neshamas who serve Hashem through practical mitzvahs. What is accomplished through that? When we call them, move on from all this long analysis, it's understood. From this we can understand the great special quality that is possessed in the fulfillment of actual practical mitzvahs specifically, over and above serving Hashem through yichudim alyanim, through spiritual unions. Why? Because through engaging in the mitzvahs maisias, in the gashmis dike mitzvahs, what do we do through taking a gashmis dike thing, something physical, and performing a mitzvah? We reveal within the physical object, and through the physical action, the source that is possessed within this article, which is beyond even the neshama. Why? Because based on the rule, whoever is higher, when it's manifest as lower. But really what's deeply embedded within it, something which is beyond even the person's neshama that engages in that activity, and that revelation, to draw out that godly spark and to reveal it as it is at its source, which is beyond even the level of the neshama, that only takes place through what? Through fulfilling a mitzvah begashmis physically. So that is the special quality that the neshamas that are b'chinas sheir abar, the great ox neshamas, type of neshamas, possess over and above the neshamas that are at the level of Levyason. Therefore, tzaddikim that are at the level of Levyason, also these tzaddikim that are at the level of the Levyason, the Leviathan, who serve Hashem in a spiritual way, they also fulfill mitzvahs. Baal Shem Tov fulfilled all the physical mitzvahs. Why? Because there's a special quality that is possessed dafke. Of course, because he fulfilled them because Hashem instructed him to. But we're talking about the dynamic of it. He wasn't potter, or tzaddik that serves Hashem beruchnias is not potter from kiyama mitzvahs. He has to fulfill mitzvahs, like any other yid. Right? But he talks about the dynamic. Why? If you can accomplish everything spiritually, let him do it spiritually. Why taka is he mechuyev in kiyama mitzvahs? The answer is because there's something which is contained within a physical mitzvah, which is accomplished through the fulfillment of a physical mitzvah, which you cannot achieve through serving Hashem spiritually. Virak only. This is what the Rebbe says in the brackets. When there is a special instruction from above that you do that this particular tzaddik does not fulfill practical mitzvahs. For example, like for example, the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, when he was forced, he was compelled. He didn't choose not to fulfill the physical mitzvahs. He was hounded by the Romans, and he had to hide. He had no choice. So that was a sign, min hashamayim, that from heaven they don't want him for 13 years to fulfill practical mitzvahs. So then, this is a lesson. This is an instruction from above. That at that point, his service of Hashem has to be done in a spiritual way, through these spiritual unions. But under normal circumstances, even tzaddikim that serve Hashem in a spiritual way also have to do physical mitzvahs. Why? This is because of the special quality that is contained within the service of Hashem, fulfillment of serving Hashem at the level of Sheir Habar specifically, which means what? Serving Hashem through Gashmias, which means you reveal the great quality that is possessed within the godly spark that's in the Gashmias, which is beyond even the neshama of a yid, beyond even the godly energy that gives life to a person. And the Rebbe will continue to explain this, how this is related to Midbar and Eretz Yisrael. Midbar, relative to Eretz Yisrael, is the Vyosan, Almadis Kasya, spiritual. As we know, he's going to say, they had an Anaya covered, the clouds of glory, they washed their clothes, and the clothes grew with them. They had food from heaven. They were not engaged in physical activity. That's the Vyosan. Then you have Sheira Bar, Maisa, action, which is where? Eretz Yisrael, etc., etc., etc.